Good Erev Shabbos, Parshas VaYishlach. VaYishlach is a parsha which is chock full, and it begins with an interesting story. VaYishlach malachim lefanav. Yaakov sent angels in front of him, representatives, human agents, whoever they are. He sends these representatives to Esav, in essence, to say to him, time for us to make up, time for us to have a rapprochement, time for us to get back together. And the Malachim come back to Yaakov and they say it didn't exactly work out the way you might have intended. According to many Mefarshim, this was an epic fail. Rashi says we can see the epic fail because it says El achicha el Esav, your brother Esav. And Rashi says, you Yaakov, think that he's your brother, but indeed he's Esav, a man with nefarious intentions who has the same ill will and enmity towards you, who's planning your death, demise, and destruction and demise. So this didn't work out too well. Sforno says we can see that it didn't work out too well by the fact that the pasuk uses the language holech likrasecha. He's coming out likrasecha, and this language likrasecha, holech likrasecha, says the Sforno, we can see in other places in Tanakh. This indicates going out to war. Esav say their representatives back to Yaakov. He's coming to war. He's coming for military battle. Be ready. Beware. In essence, the attempted rapprochement, the outreach was a failure. Number 3, the Ksava Kabbalah says that when he says Vigam, and he's also coming out to greet you, well, Vigam, and he's also coming out, says the Ksava Kabbalah, is that word is to be understood as an opposite. Adarabba, just the opposite. You intended to have outreach to Esav. You intended to bring the two of you together through sending their representatives to go and meet and talk with Esav. Well, we met, we went, and we talked to Esav, and not only did he fail to accept the message, Adarabba, just the opposite. Vigam holechli, he's coming out and he's coming in full force. So get ready. Yaakov's attempt was an epic fail. The Ramban says that if you look in the Psukim, there's no response that is offered on behalf of Esav. They come back and they say, we did what you said. And well, what did Esav say? There is no mention of what Esav said. And that silence is deafening because basically what is being implied here is that although Yaakov attempted to reach out to Esav, there is no response. Silence. And now he's coming with 400 men. And the likelihood that these 400 men are for kavod, are an honor guard for Yaakov, is very limited. It is much more likely that these 400 men are coming for battle, are coming for death and destruction. So all this is to say that Yaakov's attempt here was an epic fail. So why does the Torah include it? Just pick up where we live right afterwards. And they meet and they hugged. And they lived happily ever after, to the extent that that is true. Why does the Torah include the epic fail of Yaakov? And here, Rabbi Abraham J. Tversky has a beautiful, beautiful, and profound idea, and a powerful one that I think has a message which is important for all of us, especially in the time in which we live, which is so polarized and so divided, and there's such anger and enmity of people against people. Says Rabbi Tversky, we learn in Pirkei Avos, Al tadin es chavercha ad shetagia limkomo. You shall not judge your neighbor until you stand in his place. That is to say, until you see things from their perspective. Once you're in their place and you see things from their perspective, maybe you'll be a little bit less judgmental. However, others suggest ad shetagia limkomo means literally until you arrive in their place. One version is after we die, after 120 years, only then will we be able to see the place of our possible enemy. And we'll be able to see, did I judge this person correctly? Or was it a misconception? Perhaps this person who I thought so negatively about, I will see in the Olam HaEmes, he's b'mechitzaso shel tzadikim. His lot, his place, his makom is the courtyard of the tzadikim. Do not judge a person until we are in their place, physically as it were, or in their place in Olam Haba. Others suggest, Ad shetagia limkomo means go to their town, go to where they live, go to their community, meet and see and talk to the people who they know. And then after you get a sense who that person really is, then maybe you can pass judgment. Al tadin es chavercha, don't even think of passing judgment over another person, ad shetagia limkomo, until you get to his physical place of residence and talk to his family and his friends and his neighbor and his community and see who he is, and get a little context to the person. Then we'll be in a position to possibly pass judgment, if even that is possible. Another approach is ad shetagia limkomo means until you get to that person's spiritual station in life. Ma'alaso, makom ma'alaso. The person's spiritual stature. When you're in the same stature as that person, then maybe you could judge that person, pass judgment. But until then, nothing to talk about. And who can even know whether they're on the same spiritual standing as another person? So it almost renders it impossible. But none of this answers the question of why the Torah records Yaakov's epic failure. Says Rabbi Twersky, we have to understand in the following way. Do not pass judgment, do not judge, do not look down, do not have enmity of one's neighbor based on what we believe about them. Ad shetagia limkomo, until you are physically present with them, to talk it out, to hash it out, face to face. We'll be able to communicate and learn by the spoken word, by what was not spoken, by the body language. When a person is face to face in human contact with another human being, there is a greater possibility of creating amity, comity out of the discord. Al tadin es chavercha. Don't pass judgment over your neighbor from a distance, from afar, sitting in a room. Rather, ad shetagia limkomo. Be with them physically, present, communicate, talk. And this is why the Torah records Yaakov's epic fail. Yaakov failed because he sent intermediaries. That's not going to cut it. It's not going to work. You have to be in the room together. And therefore, the epic fail is recorded in order to be a contrast to what comes next. The only way Yaakov and Esav actually have a proper rapprochement is when they are face to face with one another. And Esav melts. And he hugs and kisses Yaakov. This, says Rabbi Twersky, is the message which Yaakov's epic fail teaches us. The fail is provided in order to teach us the contrast of what to do, and that comes next. We live in a time where there is so much enmity amongst people, and it exists in the political sphere, and it trickles down into human relations on an interpersonal level. There's so much division, so much polarization, so much enmity, so much. What needs to be done is for people to be with one another, to talk with one another, to communicate with one another face to face. And in doing so, we have an opportunity, like Yaakov and Esav together, to bring some measure of amity and comity between neighbors. If it could work even momentarily for Yaakov and Esav, then perhaps it could work for us as well. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us the strength, the wisdom, and the courage to be there for one another, especially for those of us who have some discord with one another. And in doing so, maybe we have the blessing to bring happiness and harmony out of the discord. Good Shabbos.